50 plus building tips in 7 days to die. Let's get straight into it with some of the block basics. With building blocks, you can change the shape by holding R or holding whatever your reload button is. And from here, you will hover over the shape's icon and then let go, and then you will see hundreds of different options to choose from, much of which you will find far more useful than a default block. We will go over specific blocks you can use when we start going over different horde-based builds. By holding the reload button, you can also click advanced rotation, allowing you to cycle through many different block rotations till you get what you are looking for. If you happen to pass the rotation you want, you simply just press the reload button to go back a rotation and use that one. So for PC, that should be R still, and then if you're on console, it should be square or X for Xbox. And remember to set it back to simple in case you just need a basic rotation. To change material of any block, you will need to make a paintbrush using wood and leather. You can then use paintbrush to then paint building blocks to the material style of your liking. To select the material, hold the reload button and select material or the texture picker to copy the one you are looking at. Each block side will use one paint. You can craft paint in a campfire with a cooking pot, chrysanthemum, and water. You will get 250 paint per water and chrysanthemum, so it's relatively easy to make. You can paint block by block side by side with the paintbrush option, or hold R and switch to the paint roller to paint 4x3 at a time, or even paint a whole surface with the paint surface option. You can erase paint by left clicking the painted surface. And if you want to change more than just one side of the block, make sure to click the cover all sides option. Do know that you will permanently lose paint that you've erased, and also the paint option is purely cosmetic. So if you try to paint wood to look like stone, it won't gain any HP. There are essentially 4 types of building material you will use, not including the default frame block, but these 4 types are wood, cobblestone, concrete, and steel. And their strength are as follows. Frame block has 100, wood has 500, cobblestone has 1500, concrete has 5000, and then steel with 10,000. You can upgrade default wood frame block from wood to steel, but it will cost you 8 wood, 10 cobblestone, 10 concrete, and 10 steel. Next tip, size doesn't matter, usually. You might be wondering if changing the shape will affect the block strengths, and no for most blocks except the ones that are super thin like sheets. I'm unsure if there are other exceptions, but that is definitely one of them. But for the most part, the half blocks, the quarter blocks, the pillars, and even the letters have the same HP as the default block of the respective material. Another tip, instead of upgrading the wooden frame blocks, you can instead craft whichever block you need for just 10 of that material, then upgrade from that point. For example, with 10 concrete mix, you can make a concrete block, and when you're holding the block in your hand, you can still make changes like you can with the frames by holding R and selecting whatever you want it to do. And once it's placed, it will still be placed as concrete right away. This way, you save on the wood and cobblestone upgrades. The downside to this is that if you misplace an upgraded block, it will be that much harder to get rid of it. You should try to get cobblestone as soon as possible. You will likely acquire a lot of clay just by playing the game and completing buried treasure quests. And then it's worth getting some stone to create cobblestone with the clay and upgrade the most important supports for your base. If you are early in your survival world, you likely won't be able to upgrade to steel blocks for a while, but here's how you can make that process faster. First, you will need a crucible in your forge, then you can actually start to craft steel using iron and clay. To unlock the crucible, either look for it with traders or start upgrading advanced engineering to boost the loot odds for the Forge Ahead magazines, of which you will need 75 to be able to craft the crucible in the forge, so it'll take a while. Also, quick tip, you can use the stone axe, the claw hammer, and the nail gun to perform upgrades, with the stone axe being the slowest and the nail gun being the fastest. Now that we've gone over some of the basics for understanding how blocks work, let's go over the stability basics. Not only does each block have its own strength, but it also has its own mass. Wood has 5 mass with 40 support, cobblestone blocks have 10 mass with 120 support, concrete blocks have 10 mass with 120 support, steel has 20 mass with 300 support. So what this means is a wooden block placed with Bedrock Support can't support 8 wooden blocks by itself. And while you may think, oh, so a steel block can support a lot of wood. Technically, yes, but you also have to keep in mind that the wood blocks are still holding each other, which can technically only support 8 of themselves, so it will still collapse after about 8. There's a lot that can go into this, but the main thing to look for is the pink placement block. When you're going to place a block and it turns pink, that means your structure is going to collapse, so try to find a way to get extra support. You can even see like a yellowish tint right before the pink, which means you're getting close to the pink, so just look out for those warnings. You want blocks that have bedrock support. This means a block that's connected to the ground, which is connected all the way down to bedrock, which is an indestructible material. Every block placed vertically on top of this will have maximum stability until you start relying on a block's strength instead of bedrock. I'll show the stabilities with this setting on, and you can check your own by pressing F1, then typing DM, and then going to the pause menu to turn on show stability. As of now, I only know how to do this on PC, so sorry for you console users, but do know that this will disable achievements for you achievement hunters, so you might not want to do this. But remember, you will also see that pink box no matter how you are playing. One of the easiest ways to be punished by gravity is by upgrading blocks in the incorrect order. Hypothetically, you have a wooden bridge and you make 2 blocks in the middle of the bridge steel, and it will cause the whole bridge to collapse since it cannot support it. Instead of doing this, you want to upgrade the supports first that are supported with bedrock and then upgrade the rest. This can happen with any type of build, especially if you try to upgrade your roof or the path that you left for the zombies. To prevent this, upgrade the most important support blocks like I said, or you can even connect external support. This can be done with just regular blocks, or you can turn them into pillars and connect them all together. Another form of support, while also adding extra layers of protection to the base and keeping the slim look, you can use plate blocks. This will have the same strength as a full block, so if you are able to do so with your material, make sure to do this. You can even go a step further and add these corner pillars like this, but this is really just extra and not really a priority. But if you have the extra material and the time to do so, you might as well go ahead and do this to be safe. Now let's go over how the zombies work so that whenever we go into the horde based design, some of the methods make sense. Zombies are going to try to take the shortest path, whatever they can to get to you quicker. They are a little smart in the sense that they can detect weaker parts of a build, because while it does seem like they are being smart, they will ignore traps and other obstacles. They just want to take whatever they believe is the shortest path. So as you can see from my example here, I placed a bunch of spike traps on the shortest path, and even though it probably takes them way longer and they also take far more damage, rather than going around on the other 2 paths where they will get there faster, they just know that this is the shortest path. Also, for some reason, doors and entrances will attract zombies. Even though the door might be stronger than the nearby blocks, they will still go for that door. For example, with a 5000 HP door versus 2 1500 HP cobblestone blocks, they will choose the door. However, if you do place a steel door, they will decide to go around for that. If zombies have no path to get to you, they will start destroying whatever they can, likely eventually leading to your building collapsing. So try to make sure there's always a path you want them to take so they don't get stuck and don't destroy the path. Zombies that fall from your base may start to destroy your base. If a zombie falls off a height of 11 blocks or lower, they may go into destroy mode and start hitting your base for some time. But if you build your base 12 blocks or higher and they fall from that, they will go right back to the path you left them. Before we continue, I'd greatly appreciate it if you click the subscribe button down below and turn on noties so you can pull up to the future YouTube live streams. Also consider becoming a member to get your name at the end of the video. Appreciate your support, and shout out to TKM for the super chat in one of my past videos. Now back to the video. Now moving into traps. Early game, your best bet is going to be some basic spike traps, which isn't terrible to have early game, just know they likely won't survive the horde night. These tend to break very fast but offer useful protection for the first couple of horde nights. The best use is on top of your base to take out vultures, so you don't need to worry about them at all. Be careful in placing a bunch of spike traps in a pit, as if zombies fall into them and get stuck, they will continue to do damage to your base if they can reach it. As you see, I was running into this issue here. You should probably instead place some on the path to get back to you, and not on the bottom of the base. You can eventually upgrade to iron spike traps by either crafting iron ones or upgrading the current wooden ones if they are still intact. Just know that these also still will probably not survive a whole night, but they will last longer and do more damage. Blade traps will not only last longer, but they will also deal far more damage. These do deteriorate fairly fast and require a power source of some sort, which we will go over later. But for these, you do want to keep them in range to be able to repair. You can design your base so that you are able to repair the traps by leaving it close enough to do so. Here's an example of me continuously upgrading this blade trap even as the zombies continue to run through it and do damage to it. Also, these traps do take damage just based off of use. It's not that the zombies are hitting them, it's just that they are doing their job and they will get worn out. Electric traps, more specifically electric fences, are probably the best traps, and you should use the electric fences as you get them to hold the zombies right in front of you. And if you don't know how to use electricity, here is a quick basic guide for electricity. You will first need a wire tool. This can be crafted from a workbench with steel and mechanical parts. Make sure to check your storages though, as you've probably come across one by looting by the time you are using electricity. You will then need a source of energy, mainly either from a generator bank or a battery bank, which you won't actually be able to craft one until you read a lot of electrician magazines. But for when you do get one, I'll let you know how to use them. Let's first go over the generator bank. You need to fill these with engines, and then you need to make sure that it's filled with gas. The more engines you use, the more power output you get. This can go up to 300 watts, with each engine providing 50 watts. The more watts you are using, the faster your gas will deplete. but it honestly lasts pretty long. The battery generator, as you might guess, will use car batteries, and for this one the car battery level matters. With the battery bank you can also get a max of 300 watts. This takes 6 level 6 car batteries, with each of them being worth 50 watts, just like the engines. And for this one the battery's life will slowly deplete until charged. Charging is its own thing because you can actually use a generator to charge them, but this is pretty redundant because then you might as well just use the generator. So this is whenever solar panels come into play. Solar panels are great as they will stay activated as long as there is sun, but that's the thing, the sun will not always be available, especially during horde night. So the best thing to do is to use the solar panels to charge your battery banks, that way you never have to worry about them running out. In order for your solar panels to produce power, you will need solar cells. This and the solar panel having access to the sun is all you need to start acquiring power, and then from there they will charge your battery banks once connected. You do need to leave the battery bank on for it to charge, just make sure the battery bank output isn't higher than the solar output or it will not charge. What I do is connect my battery bank to a switch, and then connect that switch to everything else so I can turn things off that way. As soon as the solar panels do lose access to the sun, the battery bank will be used again. Now, basic how to connect things, you want to start and right click at the power source, and then right click where you want the power to go. So you want to start on the output, the thing producing the energy, and the input, the thing taking in the energy. Obviously in this example, the light bulb won't be providing energy to the generator, so you want to go generator to light bulb. But then you can also continue to go light bulb to light bulb and the current will continue to travel through. Now, one of the first rules to know with connecting things is single in and multi out. All connectable electrical items follow this rule. You can only receive power from one source, this is the in, but you can send power to multiple sources, up to 9 to be exact. This is the out. If I have 3 light bulbs and 3 generators, I can't connect all 3 generators to one light bulb. In fact, the last you try to connect will replace the other one, but I can connect one generator to all 3 light bulbs. You can also connect them in series by right-clicking a powered light bulb, then connecting it to the next one as we showed earlier. However, if you do make a series, know that if you cut off one, the ones after it will also power off. The best thing to do is have an individual connection straight from the power source to the output. This isn't always possible, but if possible, make sure to do this. This is otherwise known as a parallel circuit. And with this, it makes it so that if one breaks, the whole series will not break. Since they have their own direct connection, they will remain on. The only reason you would ever choose to use series is to gain distance, which let's talk about the distance rules. The maximum distance with one connection is 14 blocks. To gain further distance, you need a relay to connect to, allowing for another 14 blocks. For me, it's very rare that this is the case, as I tend to just use another generator, but if you are trying to just use one, you will need either of these relays, or you can continue connecting the outputs in series, which will allow you to go another 14 blocks from that output. Now, if you notice, when you right click on a generator and walk away, the cable will turn red once you reach a certain distance, and it won't place even within the 14 blocks. To fix this, you have to stand right in bounds where it is still black and reach as far as you can from that spot. If you can't reach it, then you will need to move them closer or relay it as mentioned earlier. Also, quick tip, the more energy you are using, the more heat you are creating, which can result in scream response. So maybe you do want less generators to prevent screamers. Now for the electric fences. The same electricity fundamentals apply when powering these and other traps, but know that these cables will have electricity on them and will do damage when touched. This makes for a great zombie trap, not so much for killing, but they are the best at slowing down the horde for you. You can place them on different sides of a wall and the cables will still travel through the wall. You can make a tunnel of electric wires for the zombies to go through, but like the other traps, these will also break as zombies run through them. So if you're going to make a series out of these, make sure to lastly connect the one that is going to break first, typically the one more towards the front. What I like to do is have 1 or 2 rows right in front of me so I can continue to repair them. It also slows them down enough so I can get some good melee shots. Another useful trap is the dart trap. I recommend using the pressure plates for these, so they activate when zombies are actually in front of them. To get these to work, send power to the pressure plate, then from the pressure plate to the dart trap. With the generator on, once you step on the pressure plate, it should activate and shoot out darts. Make sure to test it to see if it works properly, but don't hurt yourself too much. Also, something I kept forgetting to do was lock the ammo in the dart trap, which if you don't do this, even though it is powered, it won't shoot, so make sure to lock the ammo in. Turrets are also very good and can be used if you want the help, and if you have the ammo to supply them. The main thing is making sure that they aren't getting damaged and are efficient with the ammo. So ideally place them somewhere where it will be hard for them to miss, such as at the end of a 1-block hallway, or you can use them on your roof to take out vultures, which is honestly probably the best use for them, as they won't waste too much ammo. Just like the wire traps, I like to have them right in front of me, typically where they can only see the zombies once they reach the block right in front of me. But you should only really use these if you have an abundance of ammo. And for what you guys have been waiting for, let's get into the horde-based design tips. The first tip here is to build up and strong. This is the easiest way to meet the 12 block threshold as I mentioned earlier, but for the most part you will likely prefer to just build upwards and just have a solid base with prioritizing the strongest blocks on the bottom. The first 2 blocks of the base, then the stairs, then the path, then the guard are the ones you want to upgrade first, since these are the ones that are definitely going to be taking some damage, and you're not going to be able to protect them mid-horde night. I typically will start by digging 1 block deep and start my base blocks there. This is so that if the zombies happen to hit the ground and dig through, they won't be able to just dig under my base. It'll still be another good block right there that they can't get through. Then I will go up 10 blocks high, then dig a pit at the bottom 3 blocks wide and 3 blocks deep, covering the whole bottom of the bridge that I believe the zombies will fall from, and then make sure to leave a path for the zombies to get back up. You want this path to be as smooth as possible. If you are using stairs, you want to make them very rounded as I do here, taking advantage of some of the corner steps or even using just ramps. The main thing is you don't want zombies to get stuck or they will start to hit whatever's in their way, potentially breaking the stairs, leading to more zombies getting stuck and then breaking everything. With that being said, it's almost inevitable that zombies will hit your base a little bit as they will probably get stuck on each other, so try to upgrade your base's blocks as much as you can, and again focus on the main supports before upgrading the rest. Now a design I like to go with is building a cage around the main part of the base. This allows me to shoot zombies as they are running towards the base or kill any that for some reason aggravate onto the base. This is also mainly useful for when you are playing with friends, as you don't all want to be looking at the front as it can get kind of boring, so looking to the sides and sniping zombies might be a little more enjoyable. But to do this, I use bars and place a row around the outside bottom of the base. I then also place them along the walls, then to the roof to take care of the birds. No matter if you do decide to use these bars as a cage or not, you should always put bars on the roof to take care of birds. The cage walls shouldn't be needed as the zombies should go through the path you left for them, but it's extra precaution so you can watch and also add for some fun. Be careful when doing this as when you upgrade the bars there can be stability issues you don't see. Make sure this is also 4 blocks high to prevent zombies from getting on top, which this will apply to every single main base you have. I think depending on how you set up the path, it might be possible for one to get up 4 blocks, but it's going to be very rare, and it's easy to take care of that one zombie every now and then. I haven't had any issues with this outside of cops spitting at me from behind, but if you don't even want to worry about it, then just don't build a cage and just close yourself off with normal blocks. To get into the main part of the base, you can place a ladder in the back 2 blocks off the ground that leads to the top. You want it off the ground so zombies will ignore it. I prefer to just use frame ladders and get in through the front, and then pick up the ladder once I'm on top. You have to pick it up or the zombies will use it, and also if you mess this up, you will fall into the pit you left for the zombies, which is the last thing you want on horde night. Also, I do leave a hatch on top as my entry and exit point. This is also so I can stand on top freely to use throwables without having to risk them getting stuck in the base. More in particular, the Molotovs. I usually have the most issues trying to throw these from the base, but you really don't need the hatch, you can also just have a door on the side. It's all up to you. And if you do plan on using that roof, make sure to not put wooden traps up there so that you are able to actually use it. You'll just need to manually take care of the birds. You can also make a grenade chute with ramps by placing 2 opposite ramp pieces on top of each other, as shown here. This also allows for better accuracy so the grenade doesn't just bounce somewhere random. Just be careful that you don't miss that chute as you don't want your own I am legend moment. Now let's go over different types of blocks to use for pathing. The first one of course is just the normal cube. If you want constant zombies in front of you that you can keep shooting or hitting, just leave it as it is. You'll probably need some traps in front of you though to stop them from doing too much damage to the base. Another tip, make sure you have the extra material to make repairs mid-horde night. I very often will hit or shoot my own base, causing more damage than the zombies. So be prepared with either wood, cobblestone, or whatever you may need to make repairs for both the building and your weapons. Now back to different pathings. If you do want to reduce the amount of zombies but still have some pretty consistently, then use a centered pole path. This thin path will basically only allow for 1 zombie at a time to reach you with the rest falling. You can take it further by adding half pillars, which will result in more zombies falling off. And if you really want only 1 at a time to reach you, then use 2 half-centered poles and place them opposite of each other at the end. This will create a platform so that only 1 zombie will stand on it at a time, while the rest of them keep going through the circuit over and over again. If you want zombies to rarely get through, then you should use the 0.0125 meter centered pillars, and then you want to place them vertically. If you are not well prepared for the horde night and want to stall for as long as possible, this is a good pathing to use. Also be careful which blocks you do use for pathing, as for some reason there are some that zombies will not detect, and they will get lost and just start beating at the base. So if you're going to try to use something I did not specifically mention, I cannot vouch for that piece 100%, but everything you are seeing has been tested as of August 2024. But if you believe you have a better method, make sure to share it down below. And now for the most overpowered path, and the one that can be used for an AFK base. This path is a slope path where all the zombies will fall off. To do this, you want the bottom piece to be at least slope plate 03, and once it's placed all the way across, you're going to go ahead and place slope plate 04 directly above it, as shown here. The zombies will detect the path and continuously walk off. Make sure to place slope tip right at the front to be able to continue doing this. Now, disclaimer, I personally don't run this and don't know if there's a catch, but it seems very OP, and so OP that I think I would get bored, which is why I don't run it. And also, I did do it on my short base in this example, so that's why you see them attacking the base, but if it is 12 blocks high, they will not do that and keep going back and forth. You want this piece at the front so that the zombies are funneled into it, because without it, there is a chance that they can get stuck right here, but by placing this here, it should force them all to go forward and then fall down. My favorite pathing is using the window arch top trim, with a pillar 1 block underneath. This will result in zombies jumping through to get to you at a slower pace. If you are not managing this, they can get to you and start smacking your guard, but for me, this allows for a good pace for me to consistently get zombies how I want. And then for the last arch, make sure it's facing outward like this so that it leaves space for one zombie. Now, know that this is by no means the best one in terms of making the games easier, but I do enjoy this one the most. Now, blocks to use for guard, you can use bars, but these are very hard to melee through and are mainly designed for you to just aim through and shoot through. I only like these for the outer cage I showed you guys earlier. You can use them for the front, but basically everything else is a better option. A better one, and probably the most basic one, is placing a block then placing a quarter block on the opposite of that. This is probably what you will use if you make a 1 block wide base. It's better than the bars, but it's still not my favorite. But this will allow you to shoot and melee through. I know a fan favorite for this game is the Scaffolding Ladder sideways. This one is good for melee, shooting, and throwable use. Cops will spit at you, but it is hard for them to get it through this one. And also, this is a good example of why you need to build the main part of the base 4 blocks high. Here the zombies started to jump on top of each other, eventually able to get over. Now, moving on to my personal favorite guard is the pole 4-way. This one is mainly useful in guards wider than 1 block. This one also leaves enough space in between to melee and shoot zombies while also blocking projectiles, and even leaving space for you to throw your own projectiles. Also, it's good to know that you can place these guards on the outer part of the base and just rotate it so it is against the base. If you are going wide though, you will need to place those plate blocks along the side of the base to lower the risk of collapse. Now, real quick, you should know that zombies actually can squeeze through this if they squeeze in at the right angle, either with a broken leg or they somehow crouch through. But again, very rare. To prevent this though, you can place poles either on the inside or the outside. Here I place some thin pillars, blocking the paths but still allowing for open spaces to kill zombies. I personally just leave the crosses only and on the inside. And this, combined with the window arches, is definitely my favorite combo to work with, especially when playing with friends. If you have a new base design and aren't sure if it'll work, make sure to run some tests by having nearby zombies aggravate onto you and having it go through the base and look for any potential issues. This is important to test because if you are testing something new or off about one thing, it can cause a bottleneck issue, leading to zombies breaking one part of the base, eventually leading to them getting lost and destroying the rest of the base. Disclaimer, I don't claim for any of my horde based tips to be a true meta. These are just some basic methods and blocks you can use to make your survival easier. If you want to tell me how I am wrong and there are 20 other different paths and 20 other different guards you can use that are better than anything I mentioned, then go ahead and let us know down below. But I was just trying to give some basic tips, and I hope you guys got something useful. Finally, for my last tip, there are basically an infinite amount of meta bases you can make, and although it is fun as a beginner, you might have the most fun playing without them. Of course, if you would rather make the game as easy as possible and that's what makes it enjoyable for you, then go for it. But I know for some people the game can get boring when doing something like this, so consider just winging it and building whatever you want and learning through trial and error. This will result in uncertainty, and who knows if the random box you built will work, but it is fun when you have to try a bit harder. The game is majority PvE, so it's all up to you. There's no point in following any meta, just play the game for whatever makes it most enjoyable for you. Bonus tip, make sure to subscribe for more 7 Days to Die videos like this, and also consider becoming a super supporter by becoming a member. Greatly appreciate it if you do. You get access to all my past live streams and your name at the end of every video as you see here. Thank you, until next time, love ya, see ya.